If there's one thing 12 seasons of Rick and Morty have taught us, it's that death is nothing but a minor inconvenience when you're the smartest man in the universe. 1 minute, Morty's sipping some delicious alien tea. The next, he's a smear on the garage floor, while Rick mumbles something about acceptable losses. And today, we will be looking at every single character from the series who actually stayed dead. And there's no better way to start than with the death that set the whole series in motion. Back in 2013, when the show first graced our screens, Rick and Morty started out as a show about an alcoholic scientist who suddenly shows up one day and moves in with his daughter and her family. Several episodes after the pilot, all we see Rick do is take Morty on wild adventures, making us think it was all fun and games until the first episode of the third season. Named the Rick Shank Rickdemption, this episode doesn't just take off the kid gloves, it rips them to shreds and smacks us with the Rick C-137's brutal backstory. While being interrogated by the alien species known as the Gromflamites, Rick's memories reveal that he was once a stable scientist with a wife who loved him and a daughter who adored him. One day, a dimension-hopping Rick shows up, offering his alternate self portal technology. But instead of jumping at the biggest scientific breakthrough ever, Rick does the unthinkable. He turns it down just to spend more time with his family. Just as everything seemed perfect, the next scene showed a weapon called the Omega device as it portals into Rick's home and detonates, killing Diane and Beth right in front of him. But that's not even the worst part. Because it's a multiversal weapon, the Omega device wipes out every version of Diane and Beth across the entire multiverse. We knew Rick and Morty is meant for adults, but this scene really reminded us that we weren't watching a kids show. While Beth and Diane's death was hard-hitting and emotional, not all characters' deaths are the same, as seen in the case of King Jellybean. Making his appearance in the episode Me Seeks and Destroy, Morty finally gets the chance to decide what type of adventure they go on. So he portals them to a fantasy world with giants and strange-looking villagers. Things don't exactly go according to plan when Rick and Morty get tossed in jail for killing a giant.
I smell the blood of...
Holy crap!
But Morty powers through and tries to enjoy his chosen adventure. Unfortunately, the universe hates him because the moment they get free, he heads to the bar's bathroom and runs into a full-blown predator called King Jellybean. Watching Morty kill the deviant king a few scenes later felt like a breath of fresh air. Seeing how King Jellybean's death was well earned, it's time to talk about one that shook fans to their core. And if King Jellybean's death wasn't disturbing enough, the next one hits even harder. Picture the Smith residence with Jerry, Beth, and Summer all living their best lives when Rick decides he wants in on this family. You'd think there's no way Rick could mess up the family dynamic, but in the episode Rick Potion, we find out how wrong that notion is. All thanks to Morty. Morty pesters Rick into making a love potion to get Jessica to fall for him. But plot twist, Jessica has the flu, and suddenly, everyone around Morty is head over heels for him. What starts as a teen crush quickly escalates into full-blown chaos as the entire world develops a Morty obsession. Rick swoops in to fix things, but ends up turning everyone except the Smiths into grotesque monsters. And of course, the genius who calls himself the smartest man in the universe just portals Morty into another dimension, leaving that mess behind like it never existed. By the third season, we finally get a glimpse back at the abandoned world to check on the original Jerry, Beth, and Summer.
Oh my god. I have that exact same top.
But any hope for a reunion dies fast when the Citadel of Ricks portals in and straight up murders Beth and Summer. Jerry somehow dodges the massacre, only to get offed later by Prime Rick. Just when you think Rick's multiverse is complicated, it somehow manages to be brutally efficient at murder too. We get another reminder of this with the death of Slow Mobius, who, despite being a background character, was handed a death so gruesome, it made us wonder if the writers were sipping something stronger than coffee when they greenlit that plot. The episode, Unmortrican, takes us on a wild goose chase as Rick teams up with evil Morty to track down the Prime Rick who killed his wife across the multiverse. They kick off their big mission strong by trapping who they think is Prime Rick, only to find out it's a complete setup. Seconds later, they're zapped straight into a prison and forced to brawl with Ricks from every corner of the multiverse. Luckily for Rick and his Mortys, they escape and trick Prime Rick into his lair on the other side of the galaxy. Once they corner Prime Rick, he whips out the same multiversal weapon he used to wipe Diane from existence. Only this time, Slow Mobius is on the menu.
Where am I? 2 Ricks? Where's my wife? I was just with my wife!
Uncle Slow!
In a desperate bid to survive, Mobius tries to use his slow-mo powers, which only makes his death feel 10 times longer. We can only watch in shared agony as Mobius gets erased from every universe in the multiverse. And if that doesn't tell you how bad things are, Rick actually sheds tears from seeing him get zapped out of reality. The next character from the show that got permanently offed was Fart from the episode Morty Night Run. Like the name implies, Fart is a telepathic gaseous being that Morty rescues from a Gromflamite facility after he tracks down a hired assassin. Once they escape from the Gromflamite jail, Rick and Morty realize how valuable Fart is when they become wanted fugitives on the Gear Planet. They try to lay low at an auto shop while their ship gets repaired, but the mechanic immediately rats them out. Cornered, Fart goes full psychic apocalypse and wipes out a bunch of people with his telepathy. But that's not the wild part. Just when he's about to portal home, Fart casually reveals his plan to wipe out all carbon-based life in the universe.
Carbon-based life is a threat to all higher life. To us, you are what you would call a disease. Wherever we discover you, we cure it.
So Morty, sweet little Morty, has no choice but to blast him with every ray gun Rick built from the start. For an episode that started out as a wholesome metaphor about doing the right thing, it takes a violent nosedive into darkness, forcing Morty to do the one thing he absolutely didn't want to do. Now let's talk about the death that every Rick and Morty fan celebrated. Tammy Gutterman first makes her debut in the show in the episode Rixie Business, where she is introduced as Summer's friend from high school. She immediately hits it off with Bird Person as Rick throws the wildest party ever, inviting friends from all over the universe. Fast forward to The Wedding Squanchers, and we find out that Tammy and Bird Person hit it off so well that they decided to get married. And of course, the Smiths are invited. The wedding starts off great, with guests from the bride and groom stealing the show. But out of nowhere, Tammy reveals she is an undercover agent for the Federation.
In a lot of ways, what I really am is a deep cover agent for the Galactic Federation.
Plunging the wedding into chaos. We thought we understood betrayal until Tammy showed up and made every plot twist before her look like child's play. Fast forward a few more episodes, and she's back in Star Mort Return of the Jerry, leading an army of space bugs and slapping cuffs on Beth and Space Beth for crimes against the Galactic Federation. Shockingly, she actually wins. For about 5 minutes. Thanks to Morty and Summer's tag team rescue, Tammy gets absolutely bodied, and Rick finishes the job with a clean shot. As satisfying as Tammy's death was, we all wanted it to happen. But if there was a death that took us off guard, it was definitely the Vindicators. Introduced as an intergalactic superhero crew in the episode Vindicators 3, The Return of Worldender, they recruit Rick and Morty for an epic showdown against their arch-enemy, Worldender. But somehow, Rick isn't stoked to join them on the mission. Despite wanting absolutely nothing to do with superhero drama, Morty drags Rick along, and things go downhill instantly. While sneaking through the enemy base, they discover Worldender already lying there like last week's leftovers. Then comes the plot twist of the century. Rick, in a blackout bender, killed Worldender himself and turned the entire lair into his own personal Saw escape room. The Vindicators are forced to stumble through Rick's drunken obstacle course, and shocker, they drop like flies. One by one, all the heroes get obliterated, leaving only Supernova standing. If you thought the Vindicators' deaths were uncalled for, then what happened to the Citadel of Ricks will straight up drive you insane. In the show, we know the Citadel of Ricks as a governing body hell-bent on controlling all Ricks in existence. But that backfires when they get Rick C-137 on their crosshairs. After the events of the Rick Shank Redemption, the Citadel suffered a huge loss after Rick 137 forced them into an all-out war with the Galactic Federation. With the Citadel weak from the massive battle, Evil Morty wastes zero time taking advantage of the power vacuum. In Rick Morai Jack, he rides the chaos straight into the presidency, and the moment he grabs the controls, the Citadel goes straight into the multiversal toilet. Evil Morty enacts his plan, which drains the Citadel of all its portal fluid to gain access to the central finite curve. But in doing so, he brings an end to the Citadel of Ricks as we know it, killing millions of Ricks in the process. We know we said Tammy's death was the one everybody cheered for, but when Prime Rick bit the dust, the entire fan base held hands and sang in harmony. Even though Prime Rick's reckoning has been long in the making, we eventually see it happen in Unmortrican. To achieve his goal of killing Prime Rick, Rick C-137 reluctantly teams up with Evil Morty. And the fight is as epic as it gets in his lair. At the end of the day, Evil Morty ends up proving his worth in capturing Prime Rick, leaving Rick C-137 to decide what he wants to do with our antagonist. Unsurprisingly, Rick bashes his head in so much that it makes us pity the guy for a second. For a guy who's been the multiverse's biggest headache, watching him finally get deleted felt like the universe itself took a deep breath. In a show that treats death like a party trick, a permanent character death is the kind of shock that reminds you this series still has a pulse. So if you stuck around till the end of the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, or Rick's next invention might turn your life into a living hell.